Welcome back to the show, and let's begin with breaking the bias. Remember, this week we've been celebrating powerful women with stories that, need to be told. And for that, I've got two very powerful women in studio. We've got a doctor. Her name is Dr. Claire Kinuthia. She's been breaking the bias for a while by, talking about things that people usually shy away from speaking about, especially on social media. We've also got the very powerful Nzambi, who really has been doing the most when it comes to the environment and how she wants to make a change. She wants to take things in her hands, and she's been doing that for the past 3 years. And she's also been recognized by the UNEP as well as the UN for being a game changer to the environment. So for that, thank you, ladies, for joining us. It has been an absolute pleasure just having you, both of you, on the same seat. I'm happy.
Thank you for having us.
A woman is happy. Happy International Women's Day to both of you.
Yeah,
happy to you too.
Fun to you too.
Right, so Dr. Claire Kinuthia, let's start with you. Just recently, you were mentioned by TikTok, just for being a very positive, leader. Especially as a doctor, there are some things that people shy away from speaking about. They think that we should be having these conversations in private, in a closed room, behind closed doors. But you went out in public and you've been talking about reproductive health issues for women. You've been talking about, sexual matters as well, and things that we don't really hear that often. So how does that make you feel?
It's very empowering and really just helps to propagate the narrative that we need to come out of our shells. We really need to, there's a thirst for information. There are things that have been decidedly called taboo for, all our lives. If you think about back in the day on television, on any platform, even online, you would talk about sexual health issues and everybody goes, oh, that one has no manners, that one has no shame. It's something we need to talk about more. And so when I went on social media, I found that big gap, and mostly because people ask questions. People reach out to me and they'll ask questions, and I'm like, okay, there's some very basic things we should be talking about. And it's just a matter of deciding to be the first one who is open about it. Then, of course, you also receive all the backlash.
Yes, of course.
But it's actually been less than what I expected, because a lot of parents have reached out and said, thank you for talking about this, because now I have a tool to talk to my child about. If I want to talk about sexual health issues, if I want to talk about reproductive health issues, we can watch your videos together and then we start the conversation. So I think that's a beautiful thing.
Amazing. And Nzambi, you are one of the first women, I believe, in Kenya, of course, after Professor Wangari Matee, who are really making that change in the environment. And you've really gone the extra mile. In 2020, you were named the game changer. Of course, it was a title that was given to you by the UNEP for the project, which basically included changing and transforming and recycling plastic into concrete bricks. How does that make you feel? You're the first of your generation who is really making that change in society.
First of all, I'm honored. It was a huge moral boost, just because we've been doing this for, now this is the 6th year.
Wow.
But we took about 3 years in research and development.
Yes.
And so it was a really big boost. In addition to that, it was also, it opened us a lot to different markets, both local and international. And also it helped us and catalyzed us to the next level. So what we do right now, in Gjenge, we recycle plastic waste into pavers, in Kenya popularly known as cabros. But right now we're in the research and development phase to make an actual building block, because our goal is to be able to impact, and not just impact, but disrupt the affordable housing space. Because there's a demand of about 2 million units, and every single year, this number increases with 200,000.
Absolutely.
And so we need to do something, and reducing the cost is our first step.
Lovely. Love to hear it. Claire, what are some of the questions that you get when it comes to reproductive health, and some of the challenges that you've encountered along the way? You said backlash has been one of the things that you are expecting, because you're the first of your kind to make that step to impacting the society in a very positive way. What are some of the challenges that you've encountered?
The biggest challenge, of course, is it's medical conversations. So a lot of people are on social media because it's supposed to be entertaining. We're looking for what's happening, what's hot, if we're
what's trending, what's viral.
Exactly, it's everything about that. So the biggest challenge was actually building an audience, just because you start to talk something medical and everyone goes, okay, I'm not in class, I'm not interested. But then more and more people were reaching out, especially so in private, in the DMs, and wanting to find out, when you talk about this issue, I've had this kind of an issue, so can you address that as well? So I started to see, okay, there is a gap. Let me refine and change the way I present the topics. And that's why TikTok has done so well, because they're much shorter videos. It's trendy because you keep up with the trends, and it's pushed me out of my own box, because again, doctors tend to be very conservative, and so just getting out of my own headspace and not being so stiff anymore, and actually playing along with the different kind of songs and the different kind of trends that are happening has helped overcome a lot of that as, in terms of being a challenge.
And you know, this year's theme for International Women's Day is actually breaking the bias. And the reason why I thought both of you were perfect for this conversation is because you're both breaking the bias in your respective fields. Dr. Claire, you know, when you say that doctors are usually supposed to be very conservative and very traditional and, you know, stiff and rigid, when I see you, I don't see any of that, which is amazing, because, you know, it just goes on to show that you're here to make that change and to be the first of many. Right? In the West, we see very many doctors talking about these topics that are taboo right here in Kenya. So when you started, is this something that initiated this change in you to go out there and try and have these hard conversations?
Yes, because we have a huge gap between the knowledge pool within the doctors and the medical personnel and our patients. And generally, it's because we refuse to talk to people at their level, like to help you understand the issues. Everyone wants to talk medical jargon. You come into clinic and I'm talking at you instead of to you, and having that conversation. And a lot of times it's more an issue where somebody comes in and they're feeling shy because they feel shame around the topic. And I work in reproductive and sexual health, being an obstetrician and gynae, so it becomes difficult to help you get better if you're not being honest about what you've come in with or what your concerns actually are. So I started to see that gap and say, you know what, it's scary to be the first. It's scary because on the one hand, my colleagues will take me less seriously.
Yes.
I've had some call me a socialite, others have told me you're the kasupu of the group, and I'm like, that's so unfair, because already as a woman I struggle with so much bias in the workplace.
Absolutely.
Because it's supposed to be like really has always traditionally been male dominated. So coming out of it and then saying, no, I'm okay being feminine, but more so I'm going to talk about taboo topics. Then more people went, ooh, okay, you're a hot potato, we don't want anything to do with you, which is ironic because we need to have these conversations. So it's more of just deciding, you know what's the worst that can happen? My patients come in and we continue to have very open conversations, and it breaks that bias, the barrier between the doctor and the patient. And if you're unable to talk to somebody, I have also had videos where I teach you what to do when you come in to see your doctor. It should be teamwork. It shouldn't be you come and I talk at you. Come in with questions. Let's address your issues. Let's be honest about your issues, because if you can't be honest with your doctor, who are you going to be honest to?
100%.
Right.
Nzambi,
Yes.
you know, we already know how you're breaking the bias. You're here to make a change. What are some of the things that you are doing in your field to break the bias as an environmentalist?
I think the first one is to actually put value to waste.
Okay.
That's because waste, and especially plastic waste, has for the longest time been disregarded, especially because after you use your single-use plastics, you don't see value of it anymore.
Yes.
And so the idea is, how do we extract the value through establishing a really good ecosystem to the point where you actually are necessitated to recycle the plastic? Because what we've realized in Kenya, unfortunately, most of the population live below the poverty line. And it is with this, then when someone doesn't have basic food, shelter and clothing, honestly speaking, environmental matters will be the last thing they will ever think of.
On the priority list.
Exactly. And so how we're making it is, how do we make economics, waste plastic make economic sense? Because we've realized once you instigate that element, then you start making sense. And so for that, what we're doing is trying to really extract as much value and giving it another life cycle, hence making economic sense.
Amazing. Have you ever encountered a place where people don't take you seriously because of the way you look, because of, you know, your personality? I know you personally as well. You're a very fun, friendly person. So when you start talking serious matters, they look at you and they're like, what is she saying? Do you know?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Yes, unfortunately, in my case, I work with very, like, in the engineering space, it's and especially in construction, is almost 90% male
dominated.
And by the virtue of when you wear that overall, it kind of like puts it on like a default setting, and so you kind of don't have that much bias. The bias only comes when you remove that overall.
I like that.
So I kind of hide on that. On the other flip side of things is, yes, because it's one side to have this bubbly personality, but it's another thing to actually tackle a problem that it's not just us, but a generational problem. 100%. Because I can promise you, I am not looking forward to solve this plastic problem in this generation. I am sure. This is a battle that my children's children, maybe even to the 7th generation, will be the ones to see it through.
Yes.
But I have to take the first step.
Amazing.
And so caring for what people say is actually the last thing that should be considered.
Oh, I love that. I absolutely love that. Claire, you know, you as well, I'm sure, like when you, as you mentioned, there's sometimes when people look at you and they don't expect you to say the things that you're going to say. They don't take you seriously just because of the way you look. So how have you countered that problem?
I'm one of those people who will take the bull by the horns. A lot of my patients will come in the first time and they go, when you're doctor, when you're the nurse, or you know, you don't taking my vitals. I came here to see a serious person. I came here to see a serious doctor. So it's more of, I actually come back to you with, how about a better approach I would suggest is ask about my qualifications. Am I qualified to be looking after you today? What certification do I have? What training do I have? That's a more objective conversation instead of looking at my size. I really can't decide my size. I work out a lot. I'm very small generally speaking. I practice what I preach, right?
Yes.
I want to be as fit and healthy as possible. Exactly. So I'm not going to then become overweight and upset with myself just to make me look more appealing as the doctor, the traditional doctor that you had in your mind. So it's more of just challenging people and not shying away from difficult topics, because again, that's why we are here in the first place, because we have biases, because we're always shying away. Somebody says something to you as a woman and you feel, okay, I have to push back. I can't talk about myself. I can't, oh, okay, you've checked me about this, then what's the comeback? Or if you talk back, then you're aggressive, you're assertive, you're a bully, or all these things that we always told. So it's about challenging and changing the narrative one person at a time, and I think it will take us a long way.
Yeah, as Nzambi has mentioned as well, you know, the fact that you've already accepted that this change is not going to happen in this generation, but it will happen in the generations to come. And I feel like the way to handle this is just to basically take matters in your own hands, as both of you have done, and try and make a change.
But it's sometimes unfair that you have to prove your qualifications, you know, because no one will naturally enter into a doctor room with an old guy, fat belly and everything, and ask, hey, so what, are you qualified? But so why does she have to
answer these questions?
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but this is the world we live in.
It is, and which is why I feel like, you know, just having Women's Day is I feel the right way to go about it, because as much as women should be celebrated every single day, I feel like having one particular day is a good way to make that change, because now we're having these conversations. We're creating a space where women can actively just talk about the issues that we've encountered in the workspace, at home, you know, in our day-to-day lives, and get heard. Because most of the times, as women, when you say something, people don't take you seriously, or they don't really want to listen to you.
Exactly.
Right? So Nzambi, when you went to the UN and, you know, you were part of these big names out there, did you feel any sort of nervousness, and, you know, you were feeling a bit scared because of how big the stakes were at that moment?
Yes, because this is a whole new spectrum. This is a whole new realm. And I was fortunate enough to meet people who have been able to achieve a lot over the course of the years. And having to be in a position where the person I really look up to, the late Gjenge Makers, has been, it's honestly for me an honor.
Yes.
And my hope and prayer is, if nothing else, I do my fair part just as she did. And when my time on this earth is up, I pass the baton to the next generation. And so being in this position was both an honor and also a sense of responsibility, because then I'm put this mantle of, okay, now what do you do from there now?
Yes. What next?
Yes, exactly. So it was like a dual feeling. One way I'm like, yes. The other one I'm like, am I sure I can do it? But one step at a time, you know. One step at a time.
One step at a time.
Yes.
Absolutely. Dr. Claire, you know, when you speak to these young girls, when you speak to the girl child, when you have such open conversations with them, do you think that we need to be really in a space where we're having these conversations from a very young age? You know, we cultivate this attitude where you start speaking to your child at the age of 7, 8, 9, just so that there's a culture of them understanding what exactly it is to be, you know, sexually active, to have your reproductive health as one of your priorities in life as a woman, your menstrual health as well. So do you think this is something that you would like to, you know, start encouraging maybe the government to be doing?
So I'd even bring it down just to the home level before, because we always say government, but who is government? It's us. It's each and every one of us
Parents,
in society.
for instance.
So I would start with the homestead. As a parent, would you prefer your child learns these things from you, or from the dodgy neighbor, or from their peers who know nothing in school, or from a teacher who you're relying on but you're not checking the facts that they're giving your children? So I think start at home, have the conversations, be very age appropriate. You don't have to bombard a child with things they won't understand.
All the information.
Yeah, you don't have to. You just can build it up, and the earlier we start, the better. We are encouraging checkups from as early as 8 now. We have our girls developing much faster, and people who are having their menses very early on. And if you haven't talked, can you think about the first time you got your period? If you hadn't had a conversation about it, it was quite shocking. So if you don't have those conversations, that's where the shame comes from, if you ask me. In my opinion, if nobody told me about my period and the fact that it was going to start, and then I started bleeding, and it happened in school with no warning, it's a shameful process. And so from then on, for me, my period will always be a trigger.
A fearful experience.
Exactly. So if you're not having these conversations, then that's where we keep burying things under the sand. And then we have such issues in this country like teenage pregnancies. We have cases of molestation. We have the girl child going through so many struggles to do with something as natural as your period. We don't have sanitary wear. We don't have facilities for you to change safely, facilities for you to be able to make sure that your hygiene is good. These are things we can address from grassroots upwards, and that chain effect will actually result in positive benefits.
Amazing. Nzambi, when we talk about, you know, being the game changer when it comes to environment, right? You said that you really want to impact this particular generation and have a culture where people are thinking about the value that, you know, when you're, for example, when you're consuming plastic, for instance, straws, for instance, what next, right? What happens after you're done? So what would you like to tell the younger generation of today when they're just basically having their soda, for instance, or they're drinking juice with a straw? What would you like to tell the younger generation of today when consuming plastic?
So, well, the third law of Newton, motion, says for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. Yeah. And in life we have the karma law, what goes around comes around. And so with that said and done, for every action we have to bear the consequences. It's only visible that we have seen what the generations that have gone ahead of us have, because right now the scientists are projecting by maybe 2050, if we continue at this rate and don't do anything, we'll have more plastic in the ocean than fish.
Yes.
So with that said and done, what do we do? If nothing else, for the bare minimum, let our generation in the future be able to see fish. Just to see fish. And because of that, we have to remove that one straw. We have to figure out, okay, what do we take it from there? And then also just everyone in general to just have that consciousness, because I believe it starts with the mindset.
Yes.
And then the next thing is the will. It's one thing to have the mindset, it's another thing to have the will to actually take this plastic and, for example, in your house, you don't have to be fancy. You can just take a gunny bag, gunia, and just sort recyclable and unrecyclable. Recyclable is anything that is metal, aluminum, plastic, wood, anything that can be used again, just put it in a gunny bag. And anything that is food, organic, and cannot be used, like your menses pads and everything, just put them in one bag. And when you go to the trash bin, just put it into separate bags. Just that, because, you know, the garbage collecting team, what they do is they do what we call rapid sorting within the truck. And so when they do the rapid sorting within the truck, they collect that which can be recycled, and that's what they bring to us, the recyclers. So why don't we make their work work easier, hence our work easier, hence being able to tackle as much plastic waste as we
possible.
can.
Yes. Amazing. You know, so when I lived in London, what you've mentioned is something that has really brought back memories to me, because they do have that system in place where they have the recyclable material, waste material, and the non-recyclable waste material. So as it is, you're already doing the work for, you know, people out there who will use this recyclable material to actually put use of it. And I feel like that's just something, that's a great place to start. So thank you for that tip. I feel like if you're watching at home, maybe this is something that we need to be putting into practice, and we can start there. Anything else that we could do apart from that?
Yes, reducing your straws. You don't have to drink every soda with a straw. Maybe a soda can, okay, fine.
Okay.
But if you can reduce the consumption of straw, reduce. The other thing is, if you can carry like a bottle that you can use over and over again for drinking water, do that. It is not, those are like really small things that will not cost you much, but the ripple effect is magnanimous.
Absolutely.
Yes.
All right. And what about you, Dr. Claire? You know, when you are out there giving advice to young women, when you are talking about these issues that have been stigmatized for the longest time, is there something, you know, that you would like to point out that you feel we need to be paying more attention to, apart from obviously reproductive health issues?
Just general wellness, and teaching it at a very early age, because we're now in a more Western type of culture, and our food is showing the ill effects from our food is starting to show. And so we have a lot of people becoming obese much younger, and then we start to see lifestyle diseases, diabetes, hypertension, and other types of diseases from a much younger age. And yet it could just be as simple as talking about what you consume, talking about your fitness and your wellness, and impacting it onto your children. Children copy. So even if you told me to exercise and mommy is always on the couch sitting back and relaxing, then that's the habit I'm going to pick up. Why should I be the one outside? So lead by example, take them along, have more sociable outings where you're actually getting engaged physically and trying to eat as healthy as possible. And just those basics, will start to see a big difference in some of the disease processes that we see when people get a bit older. We're not even looking at really old age. Everyone thinks when you get old is when you should start thinking about your health. Think about your car. If you don't service it as often as you should, according to the mileage, then it starts to break down and it actually deteriorates much faster.
100%.
And this is the same about your body. So if you are careful right from an early age, as a parent, take charge and teach your child. And leading by example, it's going to go a very long way. And I think just simple conversations, simplify everything. You don't have to think, okay, I need to understand. And this is where Google comes in. Everybody wants to Google a medical condition.
And then you get so scared.
Exactly. That's none of your business. That's my work. Come in and we'll have the conversation about what you're worried about with your health, and I'll help you understand what the condition is. You don't need to be a professor after you've had a diagnosis. You can still ask questions. You can come in and continue to have that conversation. I'd like to see that barrier broken between the doctor and the patient. Come in with questions. It's your right to ask me questions. It's your right to ask for more information, to clarify whether this drug has certain side effects or not. Instead of what I see now is I give you a prescription and then you run off, you put it in the bin and you never get better, and then you go to the next colleague and say, that one didn't know what they were doing, so that's why I've come for a second opinion. So instead of that, keep engaging your doctor. If you're not happy with the treatment, you have the right to a second opinion, a third opinion, as many as you would like, but then follow through, because we can't work without you. It's teamwork. So that's my biggest challenge to everyone.
Teamwork teamwork makes the dream work.
Yes.
That's it. Nzambi, what about you? You know, in your place of work, what would you like to tell young game changers out here who want to make a positive impact in society, who want to really take matters into their own hands and try to tackle this plastic pollution problem that we have in Kenya? What would you like to tell them? Any advice that you have for them?
Just start. Because a journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. When we started 5 years ago, plus minus 6 years ago, we started with collecting plastic just from our estate and sorting it. Then we realized we're collecting more plastic than we're processing. Then we asked the question, what more do we do with this plastic? 3 years down the line, we figure out how to convert plastic waste into building products. And as you see, it created like a snowball effect. You start one step and then you build another, because you're continuously getting this knowledge, you're continuously getting these connections and these networks, tapping into these hubs where people know things.
Yes.
And then the other thing is actually just find people of like mind. I'd like to take this opportunity to shout out my team, Gjenge team. They are the baddest in the business, because in total we've been able to provide job opportunities for about 113 individuals, both men, women, and youth. And the idea is to increase this number as we increase and streamline the value stream. So just start, find the right team, and when things go tough, always tap into your why, tap into your core. Why did you begin this in the first place? Because you can lie to everyone, but you cannot lie to yourself, because that's what will fuel you.
Amazing. What a great way to end the show. Thank you so much, ladies. Honestly, I've learned so much from the two of you, and really just thank you for being such powerful forces, and you know, women who I feel are inspiring generations to come. So continue doing the great work that you're doing, and yes, all the very best in future. Let's make a difference. Let's break the bias.
Let's break the bias.
Thank you for watching. This has been Easy Friday. We'll do this again next week, same time, same place. Once again, happy International Women's Day to you. If you're watching at home, lots of love to you. As I said, we continue to break the bias, not just this month, but every month to come. Good night, take care. But yet, don't go too far. DJ Coljax, are you ready to break the bias? All right, disco funk it is.
DJ Coljax.